Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. Watched the Bray Wyatt documentary. I think it was called Becoming Immortal, Bray Wyatt. And I want to talk about it before I do a podcast sometime soon with my buddy Jimmy Faluca. Jimmy's up in Staten Island. I'm here in Florida. And Jimmy's a big Bray Wyatt aficionado. And I'm looking forward to his thoughts, but I do want to share my thoughts because otherwise I might just forget them. So let's talk about it. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend it, and I do feel as if we're on the verge of seeing Bray Wyatt return in some form. Basically, his brother, I think, is going to carry the torch of Uncle Howdy. Basically, if you watch the entire documentary and you stick around and watch the end credits, you see a lantern kind of glistening, and then you see basically a foreshadowing visage of Uncle Howdy, which was the guy we knew as Bo Dallas. And I think that would be great. I mean, I think the documentary basically is from the perspective, in some regard, from Bo Dallas, the younger brother of Wyndham Rotundo, and how much it meant to him to be his brother's brother. And of course, we know they are the sons of Mike Rotundo, the nephews of Barry Windham, and also Kendall Windham. We forget about Kendall sometimes. And also the grandsons of Blackjack Mulligan. And what an esteemed wrestling family. And we get to meet this family in ways we haven't before. We get to meet Bray Wyatt's mother. Obviously, she's Barry Windham's sister. Barry Windham was one of my favorite wrestlers. Folks, I've been watching wrestling so goddamn long. I saw Blackjack Mulligan wrestle in person, okay? I saw his son wrestle, I saw his son-in-law wrestle, and I've lived through the entire life of Bray Wyatt. And it seems like in this gentleman's 36 years, he did accomplish a lot. I'm not going to give the whole Bray Wyatt history here. Watch the documentary. And, you know, WWE, for all its faults, and there are many, they do a nice job of reflecting upon a recently passed compatriot. We've seen over the years many Eddie Guerrero retrospectives paying homage. Even the Von Erichs DVD they did 15 years ago was very well done and respectful. This one, I don't know. I mean, for the modern fan, for the young fan now, this is going to hit you hard, folks. For the young wrestling fans, welcome to the club. You know, for the fans that have been around for a while, we've seen our Eddie Guerreros come and go. We've seen our Brian Pillmans come and go. The Von Erichs, obviously. Bruiser Brody. We've seen, the Grand Wizard of Wrestling. We've seen these characters or these people that you build a bond with. Obviously, it's a one-way bond for the most part. They're on television, we're watching, or they're in the ring and we're watching. But there is some give and take, and probably in pro wrestling more so than any other sport or activity or traditional film stars or TV stars. There's quite an interaction with all the conventions and autograph signings and just the nature of pro wrestling. A good portion of the competitors or the people involved in pro wrestling were once fans themselves. It's just a different breed for the non-wrestling fan. They'll never fucking understand. So we go into this, and it kind of rips your heart out as we dig deeper into the doc. And when the family is describing the passing of Bray Wyatt, it's I wouldn't say traumatic, but I would say, if you've been through the loss of someone close to you, you're going to realize what this is like, what this poor family is going through. And if you haven't, well, you're going to learn, because you do kind of feel like you're right there with the people. Bray's mom, his ex-wife, his fiance Jojo, the ring announcer. Bray had a total of 4 children, 2 with his ex-wife and 2 with his fiance when he passed away. And it's pretty traumatic, to be honest with you, because you do feel that you do get a picture, at least I did, coming out of this 2-hour documentary of what this guy was like in some regard. Did they sanctify him? Perhaps a little bit. And that's typical of when you do a eulogy or a documentary on someone that's passed away. For the most part, you concentrate on the good stuff. there's nothing you can say now to, help them improve their personality, okay, because they're not with us anymore. But like I said earlier, I mean, it does feel like there's some creative stones unturned here. And watching this thing, knowing that the WWE did not really do a whole lot with Bo Dallas, and they gave him this kind of weird, what was that motivational character he did? The Bo, you can do it, or Bo Dallas, or whatever the fuck. Basically, you feel like, yeah, I wouldn't really mind if Bo Dallas picked up the mantle of this horror wrestler from his brother. And it seems like the dynamic of the two was that, the big brother kind of led the way into a lot of things. And but Bo was right there with them, and for whatever reason, it kind of became almost a Randy Savage, Lanny Poffo thing, where, Bo was in the shadows of Bray, but Bo's still a young guy now. I guess he's probably 35 himself at this point, 34, 35, so he still has a good run left in him. And I just have a feeling we're going to see something at WrestleMania, to be quite honest. If not WrestleMania, the Monday night after at Raw. I feel like we're going to see the reemergence of Uncle Howdy, and they're going to take some of these characters, and with some of the people involved in WWE that we meet in this doc, the Rob Fee guy seems like he's on it, and the costume buddy of Bray Wyatt seems like he's on it, and it seems like this whole doc, in one way or another, is promoting Bo Dallas to kind of take over this legacy. And I'm not really opposed to it, to be honest with you. A lot of times I would have an opinion like, let the dead lie, or, do your own thing, Bo Dallas. But I do feel like he's his brother. They were pretty close. And, he was doing Uncle Howdy towards the end there, Bo Dallas. So I feel like it's okay. Like, I feel like I'm kind of into it. And if some of the profits from some of the marketing, if they make masks from Uncle Howdy, or if there's new characters or adaptations on some of Bray's creations, I think I would support that. I would be happy to see that, because there's 4 kids to feed here in this family, and what the hell. As far as other elements of the doc, the town they lived in Florida. I live in Florida. I never heard of this town, but I haven't been in Florida very long, comparatively. But this little town that they're from, the Rotundas, very interesting. Seeing footage, I mean, the documentary tells you several times you're seeing footage from the WWE archives that have never been released before. So we see some of this Florida Championship Wrestling material, some of the, infamous promo classes that we've heard of as wrestling fans for years. We're kind of seeing some of these clips from these early Bray Wyatt days in the promo class. They go into the story of, unfortunately, in late 2020, his friend, I believe the gentleman's name, John Huber, a.k.a. Luke Harper, a.k.a. Brody Lee. I mean, that very, in some regard, reminiscent of when Eddie Guerrero passed away, and then the gentleman formerly known as Chris Benoit had that whole situation. Not to compare these 4 gentlemen, I guess I just did, but just the friendship. It seemed like Bray was never quite the same after the passing of John / Luke. And it's sad, and we get to see the Braun Strowmans, the Eric Rowans. So I'm really seeing in my mind's eye here, folks, and we'll find out, because I'm taping this on Friday. I guess it is April 5th, 2024. WrestleMania is coming up Saturday and Sunday. I guess we'll see if my little vision of, Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, then maybe they even bring back, I don't know if they're going to bring back Eric Rowan, but I could see them putting Braun Strowman in the mix. I could even see Braun Strowman being suited up with that giant, different Fiend outfit. I could see them putting somebody else in the Fiend outfit, to be honest with you. It could be Braun Strowman, or they could have another guy. There's plenty of guys, to be honest with you, that I see these NXT house shows. There's plenty of decent wrestlers that don't seem like they have much of a character or a gimmick, and they could insert any number one of those fine folks into that outfit, okay? So I am seeing that happening. Not to say that anybody could do it, but I'm saying there's more than one person the suit's been made. If you watch the doc, you know what I'm talking about. Someone's going to wear that fucking suit. I mean, that's what we're getting here too. And I kind of think that Bo Dallas is going to stick more to the Uncle Howdy suit and have someone else take over the Fiend suit. Alexa Bliss, congratulations to her. Apparently she had a child not too long ago. You know, her husband seemed a little prancy, I guess is the word. But yeah, they had a kid, so I mean, you know, good for her. But if Alexa Bliss, who's featured a lot in this doc, if she comes back, you know, put her back in this family, they could have some new creatures. They could have like the old, you know, Bray Wyatt creatures, the bunny and the fucking, you know, rambling rabbit and all these people. They could feud with like some new creatures. I mean, I could really see it being a thing. That's another thing when it comes to Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotundo. It did feel to me, and you really feel like you're like a friend of this guy, or at least a friend of a friend by the time the doc's over. I feel like he was more suited to be a horror film producer, like an independent horror film, you know, writer, director, producer. Producer is probably the best word, because it seemed like he had so many ideas that were flying around. He needed some other people to balance with. You know, so a producer role in that regard would probably be best. He could have been a director, but it seemed like perhaps he had a tinge of ADD. Like he had so many ideas going on. He needed people with a little more structure in their thinking. And this is just what I'm gathering from the doc. But people in the doc said stuff like this, Triple H especially. It seems like he needed collaborators that were a little more regimented and a little more pencil on paper, or, you know, he was an idea guy and the ideas were always flowing. And you hear, you know, Bruce Pritchard and Triple H, and they're not complaining so much, but they're kind of alluding that, you know, Bray at times, his imagination was so vast and he was so concentrated on getting things the way that he saw them. It made it difficult for them to work with him sometimes, because in WWE land, as we know, they're so used to this hierarchy of different assholes having rank over the wrestlers, you know. So to me, like I said, and me and Jimmy did a prior conversation on Bray Wyatt that's somewhere on this One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan channel. I made the point that I thought Bray Wyatt actually accomplished quite a bit in the WWE while he was there. Jimmy was saying that they didn't really realize his potential, but I kind of think of those years that Bray Wyatt was on the main roster of WWE, he probably did more creatively that he wanted to do than anybody else, if you think about it. Because a good portion, if not all, but I mean, Bray Wyatt wanted to do the Bray Wyatt character. He wanted to do, you know, this cult leader. And then my personal favorite was the Firefly Funhouse, the parody of the Mr. Rogers. I thought that was his best work. I remember when the first week that thing aired, people online were shitting all over it, and I sat back and I even typed up, "Hey assholes, wait a week or two. I bet this is going to get interesting." And it fucking did. Okay, and then The Fiend, you know, The Fiend was interesting too. Yeah, The Fiend was great. I mean, I just, of the three, I see it as three distinct characters. I see it as the cult leader Bray Wyatt, the Mr. Rogers talk show host, like the Pee Wee Herman, you know, the Funhouse host, and then I see The Fiend, and I would definitely say that the Funhouse guy is my favorite, and then, well, the other two were pretty damn good too. I think The Fiend, perhaps, because, unless my memory is mistaken, he didn't really speak a whole lot. That was kind of like the final boss of the three. I dug it, but I didn't quite, because like you know, like even the doc says, it's hard for him to actually wrestle. They do get into the stuff where they did Scorched Earth, you know, Randy Orton kind of burns this character alive, stuff like that. I mean, I think as far as modern day, you know, last 3 or 4 WWE years, this is about as close as behind the curtain as we're going to get, folks. And the frustration of a creative guy working within a system, you know, another thing that's interesting to me. Interestingly enough, you know, notorious by his absence, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, he had a puppet named after him. There's no sign of the Vince puppet. There's no sign of Vince. Vince's name is not spoken in this documentary, which I found was interesting. So overall, folks, I did enjoy it. It was 2 hours and 2 minutes long. I started watching it last night at like 3 in the morning. Watched the first hour. went to slumber, woke up, and I told myself, you know, I have to discipline myself. A lot of times I get all these goddamn various YouTube videos stuck in my head, and I'm like, let me just start the day finishing what I started last night or this morning, this Bray Wyatt doc. So I watched the rest of it. And I'm telling you, folks, I think it's quite possible. And in fact, I will predict, you know, not that it's a big, it's obviously a clue that they're going to bring back, you know, Bo Dallas is going to bring these characters back. Will Bo actually be the worker bee? Will he be wrestling, or will they get other guys? Like I said, there's so many guys that they can plug into these costumes, because it's really, to be honest, it's more about these costumes and one person being the mouthpiece. You know what I mean? And but the whole template's already there, and Bray set this whole thing up. He had his little world of dark fantasy. And I think another thing that Triple H said a few times, and he said this before, is, you know, how do you wrangle that type of creativity in the horror realm into pro wrestling? And sometimes it doesn't fit, because a lot of things I bet Bray Wyatt wanted to do would be better suited for a horror film, you know, like an actual script with actors and so forth. But he's taking that realm and he's putting into wrestling. And yes, it can work, because the fun thing about pro wrestling or WWE or whatever the fuck is that some of these things can work, but some of them don't. And sometimes it is like, okay, we could do 45 minutes of Bray Wyatt, you know, gothic horror, but we have to get a Miz wrestling match in on the same show. So, I mean, they have to balance this stuff. All right, folks, I'm going to get going. It's Friday before WrestleMania. Like I said, me and Jimmy will do a deep dive on this. If you're looking for more, I've gotten some more subscribers recently. I also have other channels. You might be wondering, well, gee whiz, I wish this guy would talk about modern films and cinema. Well, luckily enough, one Mike Messier has my Mike's Instant Movie Review. I see pretty much almost everything in the theater. Recently saw the Matrix re-release, saw the Godzilla and Kong thing. All my reviews are kind of similar to this. I sit here and I speak to you. And then if you say, well, gee whiz, Mike, you're such a wonderful critic of other people's bullshit, but do you create any bullshit of your own? Well, actually, I do. You can go over to one artist, Mike Messier, and see my wonderful acrylic art. Better yet, you can go to One Man and a Camera Films, the numeral 1 Man and a Camera Films, and see all my wonderful films that I make, and you can criticize me. So that's it, folks. MikeMessier.com. Thanks for all the newbies and all the oldies, and have a wonderful weekend of WrestleMania fun. Good job, Bray.